Welcome everybody. My name is Rainer Prohaska. I am born and I'm living in Austria. I am sitting here near the city of Vienna, and as an introduction to my project which I concepted for 2020 SIAF, I'm going to talk now briefly a little bit about my person, my working methods, and finally I will show you around, because where we are actually sitting is not only on a hill near the city, we are also around the studio of myself. I call it the mobile studio, which is installed in this bus I'm sitting in front of. So next I'm going to talk about my working fields. We do architectural experiments, as you see on the yellow model right before. A lot of installation and interventions, then culinary performances, cooking performances. I am experimenting a lot with mobile units and exploration systems. And last but not least, and that's the most important working field for Sapporo, is technology. Technology in the system of art. And we are at the moment changing from the topic technology more into art and ecology. That means that we are not using and playing, experimenting with technologies. We see this in an ecological way, how to prevent things, how to stop global warming, and a lot of other different issues. This is the main topic also for my project in Sapporo. And we will talk about all these ideas and project-related items, artworks, a little bit later. I'm now going to talk about what I'm thinking about the SIAF title, how it inspired me, and how I deal with the situation to find a title and to form it to a project where the title refers to the SIAF topic. So when I heard about Fruits and Clouds, the main title in English, of course, when I see also previous pictures of SIAF festivals, I am very interested in the nature and the prevention of nature. And of course this inspired me a lot, but much more. And for me better fitting was the Japanese title, which is not popping up in an English translation. But if you think about it, I heard from the Japanese staff that it's called We Try to Live Here. And that's when I talk about technology and ecology ideas in arts, I'm very interested in the extension of this title. So I immediately came up with the idea that I could call it not only We Try to Live Here, go a little bit further and call it Tomorrow We Still Try to Live Here. And from this longer interpretation of the Japanese title, I in the end derivated and minimalized it to the title Tomorrow, which is the title of my work, of my planned work for SIAF2020. What we actually see here is the major problem of a lot of cities. This is a night shot of the city of Vienna, and I explored the same situation, of course, as everybody knows, in all major cities and villages, that the people are using a lot of electricity. Nobody's taking care about reducing the consumption. Everybody's just very innovative in, on one hand, extending the consumption, and on the other hand, always trying to find alternatives in electricity production, and we know that where this leads to. So my question always was, since a long time ago, why there is no reduction in electricity consumption. And to help the people, we found it a long time ago a project which is called the Unplugger, and we will look for this object and for the way this project is working later in my studio. After we have seen the impression of the city lights of Vienna during the night, I want to show now some photographs which are referring to my impression and to the inspiration of my stay in Sapporo last year. So this photo from the internet shows exactly how I saw Sapporo during the winter, and very bright, enlightened, and what the enlightenment of big cities means to the FUTURAMA LAB project. We will talk about that later. Because I am a little bit more interested to talk about the time during the workshop and the people who worked with us, and that was very impressive for me and also inspiring, because the way the people from Sapporo interacted with us, the way they understood the philosophy and the idea behind my toy kit architecture project here in the lobby, where we built some training modules, some sculptures which are usable, and in the end we were all together working on a tea house construction which fits in this lobby, only made by those wooden bars you can see here in these pictures, and the orange ratchet pelts. They fixed them together. What impresses me most, you can see this on these previous pictures, is the guy on the left side on top of this construction. He automatically took one of the ratchets and made himself a belt out of it, which I did some years ago. And from all interactive situations and cooperations with the audience, this guy was the first one I saw who had the same idea. And beside that, you can see on the busy people, and also on the way people are using our construction, or their construction, better to say, because they were involved in the process. When you look at the children and how people took it, for me this was by far the best experience with interaction and with building modules together with people we instructed before. In this final picture you can see the final version of the tea house, and I'm very happy with this construction and with the help of the people in Sapporo. Also inspiring was for me the city itself, and very funny if you look to this sculpture which I found. I think it is near the university. It looks a little bit like I've been already there, so I didn't know this before. But when I was biking around the city and make some photographs, I found this one, and I think it has the same spirit, the things we were doing in the lobby of the city hall. We are going to talk now about the plans for SIAF. This is a concept phase which is originally was developed in November last year during my visit in Japan and during the visit of Shuriokan building, where the exhibition of Chemo and myself should take place. But this version you will see here, because of course the COVID situation is also a very important part of this video and this presentation. There are already some ideas in this exhibition setup and configuration, which is already referring to the COVID situation. So first of all, there is one place here which is in the first floor. The whole exhibition should happen in the first floor. here's the staircase in Shiriokan, and this is the place where you end up, and this is a kind of a information part, because we split the building in two halves, Pshemo and me, and on this drawing you can see that on the left side there will be Pshemo's exhibition, and what you see here is more or less the right side of the exhibition. You have here the corridor, and in my exhibition, because all the rooms are kind of connected to each other from the themes, from the things I want to show and tell. So in the yellow part, in the lobby, there will be an information system about the rooms, and also a guiding system which tells the visitor if it makes sense to visit the rooms in a certain number. So first maybe you start on the left side and then end up on the big room here on the top. To better understand how the COVID situation influenced my work in the overhead and in a lot of different projects we are running at the moment, and on the other hand we are also planning for the next years, it first has to be a little bit introduced how technology, ecology and art are coming together in my work. So this is kind of a pre-COVID development and presentation. Everything started in 2002. I mentioned it already twice. It was the Unplugger. I'll show it here to you. The idea was based on a situation we had with the Ars Electronica festival, and the Ars Electronica called in 2002 the festival Unplugged, and we came up with the idea, why are you always using so much electricity? And as you can see on the object, that the Unplugger is a normal socket, but the cable which goes out of the socket goes as well in again to both poles, which mean if you put this one in a electricity system, it has a short circuit, which means that the electricity system is completely shut down. Some years later I showed already some drawings about the Kraftwerk project. It has a lot to do by measuring electricity, by producing it by the audience, like carrying water and different kind of stuff. In 2015, the plans of Pshemo and me became reality, that we made our first nonsense technology exhibition, which had its high peak in 2017 when we showed nonsense technology in a huge show in Krakow at the Mozart Museum. And finally, I concentrated all these technology things, but under an ecological umbrella, and created last fall the FUTURAMA LAB, which is not only a project, it's also a platform for artists, for scientists, for philosophers to talk about how important art works in reality. So our main goal is not talking about it, our main goal is doing exhibitions, doing real stuff for ecological education of people, ecological thinking and all this stuff. We are now talking about how the COVID situation was. So before I introduced you to the development, how it came to the FUTURAMA LAB, and now we are going into, as you see on the top of this plate, into spring 2020, how the global restrictions causes new works within the FUTURAMA LAB frame, but also causes, and that was a thing which is very impressive still, and it was especially in spring, how quick ecological changes could be observed through these global restrictions. And for me and a lot of artist friends and curators, for us it was a real surprising and good thing to start thinking about new ideas in art and in art productions, because it was kind of an utopian simulation which became real. Suddenly no flights were allowed anymore. In Venice the water was soon very clear, and a lot of other nice things happened. And that affected finally the thinking of people who are within the FUTURAMA LAB, who works within this NPO, and finally there's a lot of ideas, of course, coming out from that period of time. Again, spring 2020, between March and May. The most two important I want to present here, because both are kind of attracting my project planned for Shirioken at SIAF. The new works are called, on the left side you see a new division of the FUTURAMA LAB, which is called RAW, and RAY are the letters for Remote Artist Working. I will later bring a practical example how this initiative affects the way to produce art, and it became a topic for SIAF in spring before we became the information that the whole festival will be cancelled. So FUTURAMA LAB RAW were primarily created to think about how we remotely can let artists work on their artworks without making huge trips, but also, and that's very important for this, to find ironic, also funny, humoristic and creative concepts to transfer the idea of the artist to the exhibition place. Of course, mainly through the internet, but it could be also by post, but also with an ecological thinking. And there be received by executive people who are doing the artwork, or executive machines who are doing the artwork, instead of the artists going there, bringing the stuff or creating the stuff there and then flying back. One room which I planned, it's called The Artist is Almost Present. I planned for SIAF2020, was already adapted through this thinking, and it was the first example to show how we mean this remote working method. The second work is already launching, so I think we will start this project in spring 2021. It is called A Hitchhiker Guide to the World of Tomorrow, and the result of this project should be a manual for maintaining an ecological state, coming back to this global restriction and the utopian simulation. So the idea behind this Hitchhiker Guide is to ask a lot of artists, as you can see, innovation, to contributing artists and curators, invitation of course, that they should send us ideas to how they would instruct people to prevent this utopian simulation happened in spring 2020. So it is a guidebook, it is a manual how to move, how to act, how to live, and try to maintain this ecological status we had in spring. Of course, already we are far away from this status. Of course, we know that this is also an economical problem, and there's a lot of questions popping up with this idea, but we want to let the artists work on that and see how they are coming up with ideas, what kind of instructions they say to the society. Going back to Sapporo and to SIAF exhibition, I already mentioned that the title of this exhibition was Tomorrow. I also explained how it came to that title. And on one room from Shirioken building, I want to demonstrate how the FUTURAMA LAB RAW concept is thinking and how it can work. The basic idea for here, you have the room in Shirioken. It's just a square, of course, and the idea was to show their old and new drawings from the Kraftwerk project, these power plants mostly running by the audience. And of course I wanted to bring some old drawings and I have a lot of new ideas collected in Sapporo last year, so I want to also draw new versions, new ideas, bring to paper. So the question was how to deal with the situation when I'm on one hand not allowed to go there to make these drawings, to bring the drawings, and on the other hand also not or try to avoid to send them with mail to the exhibition. So our idea for the FUTURAMA LAB Raw, and this exactly shows how the remote idea is meant, that we install a digital drawing board in my studio here in Vienna. This is called Salon 4 because it's the fourth floor. And this digital drawing board is connected via the internet to a very old-fashioned two-dimensional graphic plotter. And the idea is that the connection between the sending room and the receiving room is that proper that whenever I am starting to draw on the drawing board in Vienna, the 2D plotter, which is based in the Shiryokan building, is moving at the same time. So it's not only that I draw in Japan, but sitting in Vienna through a very fast internet connection. It's also the idea that the transmission gap is very small because the amount of data you need to send is much lower, for example, than sending a video there. And also it's interesting because if we embed this remote drawing process in the exhibition period, it would be a permanent expanding exhibition where people also can watch the artist drawing in Japan but sitting in Austria. I hope this is clear so far, and I thank you very much for being with me, for listening to all this stuff, and I wish you a very good future and good luck for everything. Have a nice day.